I had a good job. Decent hours, friendly colleagues, reasonable bosses, working in the airline industry, which I loved. But I was going nowhere. I had interviewed repeatedly for roles at higher levels within the company, and the feedback was always the same. We know you can do the job. You'd make a great addition to the team. But there were other factors we had to consider. There isn't much for you to improve. Even my bosses were told this in private. One of them said, "I'd be really pissed off if I were you." The executive who had hired me was famous for saying, "If you haven't made manager by the time you're 30, you probably won't." I was 38. So I did what people do when they're trying to avoid thinking about what's actually wrong. I filled my calendar. Friends, social clubs, gym, swimming, staying late at the office, anything to avoid the question of what was actually wrong. Then, in October 2018, I joined a friendly lunchtime rugby match near my office in New Zealand. Wet shoes, slippery grass. I landed with my full body weight on one ankle. My friends heard my tibia snap from 30 meters away. 12 days in the hospital. No busy schedule to hide behind. Just me and the question I'd been avoiding. Where is my career going? Midway through my stay, my general manager came to visit me in the hospital. The company was under financial pressure, and none of us were happy with what my role was delivering. I looked at him from my hospital bed and I said, "Mike, you and I both know this isn't working out. Let's do something about it." He was shocked. He said, "I admire your courage, and I agree with you. I promise you that by the time you come back to the office, we'll have something figured out." 7 weeks later, first day back in the office, my managers pulled me into a room and put 2 envelopes on the table. One held a revised role description, work I had done 10 years earlier in my career. The other, a voluntary redundancy offer, 3 months' pay. Take your time, they said, no pressure. Come back after the holidays and let us know what you want to do. I knew the minute I saw that revised role description. On New Year's Eve, I handed in my signed redundancy offer, and 2 weeks later, I was gone. The day I walked out, I swore to myself that the only way I would go back to corporate was in a wooden box carried by 6 men. On Monday, I posted a farewell on LinkedIn, and that evening, my first consulting offer, an airline project in Ukraine starting in 60 days. My first year out was the best of my career to date. My income doubled. 6 months in Ukraine, 2 months consulting for my previous employer in a department that had rejected me 4 times for management roles, and remote work for an aircraft manufacturer in Japan. I was flying around the world doing work I loved, and 2020 was shaping up to be even better. You know what's coming. COVID hit, and few industries were hit harder than airlines. People stopped flying, fleets were mothballed, and orders for new airplanes dried up. In 6 weeks, my career, my clients, and my income, poof, all gone. I tried to rebuild in New Zealand, toured the country in a camper van for 2 months, pitching my services to local business owners. One prospective client summed up the general attitude perfectly. "Look, mate, as long as we have more money in the bank at the end of the month than the beginning, we're good." I needed a different market. I moved to Amsterdam and spent 18 months trying to break into the cargo industry. 18 months of LinkedIn messages, Zoom calls, and trade show visits. Thousands of euros of travel costs, all chasing an opportunity that turned out not to exist. I watched my bank balance drain month after month after month. I knew exactly how many months of runway I had left. Then one evening, I logged on my computer and transferred the last of my retirement savings into my business account. I still remember the knot in my stomach as I clicked confirm. Was I courageous, or was I a drunken gambler just trying to get back to break even? There were a lot of days that I thought I'd have to go back to a corporate job. But the thing that stopped me was that promise I'd made to myself, that wooden box carried by 6 men. I was hanging on by my fingernails. But somewhere in the midst of all this, I started reading online forums from consultants just like me, and reading them as they vented about their frustrations. Clients arguing over every line on the invoice. Arguments over whether a task took 15 minutes or 16. One consultant even told me that one of his clients asked him, "I saw you in the men's room at 10:17 last Wednesday. Did you bill us for that time?" I had helped airlines solve pricing problems for 15 years, and I recognized a pricing problem that I could help them solve. They just didn't know it yet. But I had already burned 2 years and much of my savings pursuing markets that didn't want what I was selling, and I was not making that mistake again. So this time, before I built anything, I picked up the phone and I called every consultant in my network. And instead of pitching them, I asked questions, shut up, and listened. This time, the problem was real. This time, they wanted my help. And now, I help consultants and fractional executives stop charging for their hours and start charging for the value that they create for clients. As Alp mentioned, I've even written a book about it. But if you're expecting a fairy tale ending, I don't have one. I'm still building my parachute on the way down. I honestly feel like I'm still winging it a lot of days. And I don't know when or even whether I'll ever feel like I've arrived. But let me tell you this, I would rather be falling and building than going nowhere, filling my schedule so that I don't have to think about it.